Hey cats, it's your midsole man, EDDBUD here. Today we got to talk stats. Which ones are actually important to you in terms of running shoe reviews? In a world where we're drowning in numbers and data, do we really need hundreds of shoe stats within these running shoe videos? Let's get to it. Thanks for tuning in, people. It is always appreciated. Do hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already, and give this video a thumbs up, like, and drop us a comment for the algorithm. Dankeschön. I try and keep my shoe stats to sort of the bare minimum, really. I leave in ones that people particularly want to see. They're just there as a number, just as some type of reference. I often talk about the stack in the midsole, perhaps a mention of the width and the weight, and some ballpark softness figures of the foam. But do we really need it all? First off, let's look at shoe weight. Does it actually really matter? I think for race shoes, we want something that's fast, it feels nimble on foot, that's lighter than the trainers that we use on an everyday basis. Though one person's heavy or brick-like shoe might actually be really light and kind of absolutely fine to somebody else. I've tested many shoes across the daily category, and when you get to my size, which is a UK 11 or US 12, some of them can feel very heavy and clunky. I often see shoes that are upwards of 360 grams for my size, these max cushion models with very plush uppers and thick rubber on the outsole. That means when a shoe does come along, like the Asics Mega Blast, which is about 260 grams for my size, with all that cushion and all that stack, it's just simply a really fun shoe to run in. Less weighty and more enjoyable. The Glycerin Max, for example, from Brooks, that one was coming in at about 350 plus grams. It's a great shoe for cushion and impact protection, but it very much fits that into like an easy or recovery day type option rather than being anything else. When you have race shoes now like the Asics Metaspeed Sky Tokyo that are coming in well below 200 grams for my size, it makes you realise perhaps why I place a little bit more importance into running shoe weight when reviewing the shoes than some of the other stats. Just imagine how heavy some of these shoes might appear to some other shoe tubers like Tim Gross or Andy the Forester Dean runner. They have shoe sizes upwards of 13 or 14 in the UK, and it's not like either of them are massively heavier than me. Andy, yes, is particularly tall, but some shoes, they're just going to feel like bricks to those guys. So in terms of shoe weight, yes, I think it's important. I think it can really change your opinion upon a running shoe. Let's move on to stack height now. Once and for all, I shall state these facts about stack height. Okay, running shoe manufacturers state sample size measurements for the midsole. That's normally a US men's 9 or a UK 8.5. Now, I wear a UK 11. I always give the stack height for my pair of the shoes. That tends to be about 3 millimeters more in the heel and in the forefoot than the sample size. The midsole stack changes as the shoe goes up in size. It scales, okay? Oh, I can't believe I have to keep going on about this. Numerous people have put in the comments before saying that my measurements are wrong. I'm not sure why they can't see it, that if you've got a shoe that's very small, right, and it still had the sample size stack, how can they not see it? Now, when I do measure the shoes, I've got a particular sort of method that I use, and I get some very consistent results. In the past, I think it was Kit Run sent me some shoes in the wrong size. They sent me the sample size and then they sent me my size, and I was able to measure them, and sure enough, using my method, I achieved the exact sample size measurement on the sample size, and my pair was 3 millimeters higher. So there we go. It's always ballpark figures though with stack heights. Even some of the manufacturers seem to get them wrong. Sometimes they undermeasure, sometimes they overmeasure a little bit. If you want to go and check out some more stuff like that, go to the Run Repeat website. But for a race shoe that's like certified for championship racing with a stack height of 40 mil, I get 43, okay? Now, I see stack height differently now than I did like 5 years ago. I think that it used to be something of an indication of intended use, but nowadays, pretty much everything that comes in for review is round about that 40 mil stack height. I mean, you've got a few outliers like the Takumi Sen 11 or like the Adios 9 or something. But most of the shoes now coming from all of the top brands are getting close to 40mm. It used to be the lower stack shoes were like for speed and interval training or racing maybe, and then the higher stack ones were a bit more cushioned, you know, for your sort of daily use, maybe your long runs or something. I think that's all gone out the window now. I think that it's more down to the foam itself. The different foams are sort of indicating as to how you might use each of the shoes. You might get like a softer foam with a slightly more resilient foam for like long range training with a bit more speed, the softer stuff for sort of longer, slower runs, and those sort of responsive foams for maybe some faster paced stuff. There's no particular formula though that anybody follows. Stack height now is almost a bit of a red herring really. Everything for me is around about 40mm. It's bonkers. It's totally changed in 5 years. So I know people like to know the stack, but when you've got like above 50mm or something for some of these shoes like the Prime X3 here, it's just huge, but that doesn't necessarily mean soft. Now, I haven't had too many people in the comments asking me to start cutting shoes in half. I mean, if they did, I'd say no. It's not something I'm going to do. That's kind of like destroying a precious guitar that was played by some rock god in the past. I'm not going to do it. You know, shoes are kind of precious to me, right? And we don't run on half the shoe, we run on the whole shoe. Now, I appreciate that some people might want to see what's inside. They want to know the softness of the foam, like inside the midsole. But I think that's just like part of the puzzle these days. One person's kitten soft compressive material is another person's sponge, I suppose. But we're naturally never going to see what's inside the running shoe when we're wearing them, running on them. A number is a number at the end of the day. It's a representation of softness. Soft isn't always the best. Sometimes a more responsive shoe actually gets the best out of you. You might want something that's a little bit denser, maybe quicker to return to form, a little bit like that Flight Foam Turbo Squared that we've got in the Mega Blast. As for like sawing a perfectly good running shoe in half to be able to do that, well, in cutting it, you've kind of changed the whole setup of the shoe, haven't you? Is the foam actually going to be affected by you sort of slicing through it? Maybe. But I think in terms of foam durometer softness, you just have to look at it as a number, as a reference, and take it for what it is. I've noted there's a few reviewers putting their shoes into a freezer. I'm not too sure Mrs. EDDBUD would be very happy if I started sort of doing this. She might push her over the edge, in fact. Yeah. I can understand that some foams get sort of denser, they get firmer as it gets colder. That is perfectly reasonable to assume that. Maybe they get softer as they get warmer. But I can't imagine too many people getting the thermometer out, particularly on a, you know, extremely cold day, and then choosing their shoes based on the temperature. I don't know, maybe people do that. I think there's other stuff to worry about in the world, personally. Now, I can imagine them looking at their footwear and selecting it like on outsole type, you know, in terms of grit, like better sort of ridges and lugs to improve the traction, but no maniac's going to slap on a pair of Adios Pro 4s, regardless of how great the midsole is, when you put it in a freezer, to go and run on ice or something. They're not going to do that, are they? This super flat, smooth polyurethane on the bottom of that shoe, and regardless of how great the foam is in the midsole, no one's going to use it on a freezing cold day when there's icy patches around. Ain't gonna happen. So I think in all but the most testing of climates, I think this whole foam temperature midsole softness thing is a bit of a red herring again. It's just more data for data's sake, isn't it? I think it's the same with outsole softness as well. I always have a quick check because I know that Asics, for example, they've got some different rubber formulas. Puma Grip seems to be a little bit different these days as well to what it was a few years back. All of the rubbers coming in somewhere between 55 to about sort of 70 or 75. There's very few outsoles that score anything outside of that range. I think durability with the rubber is very much down to how you as a runner actually run in your shoes. It might last years, it might last one race. I've seen that actually with a pair of Alphafly 3s that someone had after one half marathon. They were completely mashed. I don't know how anyone can do that, but it happens. Some of the rubbers I've noticed wear very quickly initially and then slow down, so they just stay the same pretty much over the whole course of the shoe's lifespan. Lug depth, I think, is extremely important actually, depending on your local routes where you're going to run in the shoes. A little extra depth to the outsole ridges can really improve the traction. It can be make or break if you're running in the winter, perhaps in some more testing conditions on some loose debris. So I think that's covered most of the stats there. Let me know which running shoe stats are the most important for you within reviews down in the comments. Musical interlude for you. We're talking a classic album today, at least for me anyway. It probably won't be one you've ever heard of actually for some of you. Johnny Rivers with New Lovers and Old Friends. He's got a banging version of Help Me Rhonda, the Beach Boys track on here. I love Johnny Rivers. He was able to pick certain songs by other artists and do these wonderful representations of them, sometimes, and well, most of the time, eclipsing the originals, and that's the case here for Help Me Rhonda. It's absolutely fantastic. Beautiful, summery kind of feel to his music. I don't know how he does it. Every single track, he's got that same vibe. Great vocalist as well, and hideously underrated amongst sort of the rock and roll community. Go and check it out. Help Me Rhonda by Johnny Rivers. Thanks for tuning in, people. It's always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up, like too. Drop us a comment to help with that YouTube algorithm. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you